President Biden is in Angola after visiting Cabo Verde as part of his trip to Africa this week. And tens of thousands are protesting in Tbilisi after Georgia's parliament put talks with the EU on hold. Good morning, I'm Corva Coleman from NPR News, and here are today's top stories. President Biden is in Angola, the second stop of his visit to Africa. Earlier, he visited the West African island nation of Cabo Verde. NPR's Emmanuel Akinwotu reports from Lagos.
Biden's visit is only the second trip to Africa by a U.S. president in a decade. It concludes efforts by the Biden administration to improve its ties in Africa and to counter the growing influence of China and Russia. But the visit comes less than 2 months before the president leaves office, which some analysts say reflects Africa's low priority in U.S. foreign policy. In Angola, Biden will meet President João Lourenço and will visit the National Slavery Museum. Hundreds of thousands of enslaved Africans were taken from Angola to the U.S. during the transatlantic slave trade. Biden will also visit a U.S.-financed rail project called the Lobito Corridor, designed to ease the export of minerals like cobalt and copper that the U.S. and other countries want access to. Emmanuel Akinwotu, NPR News, Lagos.
There's been more unrest in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia. Tens of thousands of peaceful protesters have turned out in the capital, Tbilisi, and been confronted by police with tear gas and water cannons. NPR's Charles Maines says the protesters are angry over the newly elected Georgian parliament's decision to put talks on hold with the European Union.
The government indeed said it won't engage with the EU until 2028. As to why, the answer lies in recent parliamentary elections. An October vote in Georgia saw the ruling Georgian Dream Party claim victory with some 54% of all ballots, a result that was certified, by the way, by the Election Commission. The opposition argues those results were rigged. And as of last week, the European Parliament agreed. Now they're calling now for a do-over.
NPR's Charles Maines reporting. The White House says President Biden, quote, agonized over the decision to pardon his son. NPR's Deepa Shivaram reports Hunter Biden was convicted earlier this year of federal gun charges and tax offenses.
Hunter Biden was scheduled to receive his sentencings in both cases later this month, but now he'll get a full pardon, despite the president repeatedly saying he wouldn't do it. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says the president believed there was a, quote, miscarriage of justice in the process.
Hunter was singled out, and because his last name was Biden, because he was the president's son. That's what we saw.
The pardon shields Hunter Biden from any further prosecution by the Justice Department for anything he might have done in the last 10 years. The president himself has not spoken to the press about the pardon since announcing it Sunday evening. Deepa Shivaram, NPR News.
In the U.S., a major snow event is still pummeling much of the Great Lakes region. Parts of western New York have gotten about 5 feet of snow since Thanksgiving. There are winter storm watches and warnings today for Michigan as well. Meanwhile, climate change is heating the whole Earth up. But a new study maps out some places where heat waves are getting even worse than scientists thought they could be. NPR's Alejandra Borunda has more.
In 2021, the Pacific Northwest baked under a record-breaking heat dome that killed hundreds of people. It was so intense, people didn't believe the weather forecasts. It turns out that most climate models weren't able to capture its intensity either. The new study finds that climate models routinely underestimate how bad heat waves can get in some specific parts of the world. These so-called hotspots, like Northern Europe and Southern Australia, are getting worse heat waves than models predict. The authors of the study, which was published in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, say it's a problem that climate models aren't capturing the true risks of climate change. Alejandra Borunda, NPR News.
This is NPR.